Well, this is Dave Gaddis, and today is June 13th, 2016, and we are interviewing Richard Bullock, who's the Director of Planning and Development for the Coastal Bend Council of Governments. And welcome, Richard.
Thank you.
Well, why don't we start at the very beginning and tell us when and where you were born?
I was born in Youngstown, Ohio on August 28, 1939.
And what did your parents do that led them to be in Youngstown?
Steel mills.
Okay. And did you stay there your entire childhood, or did you move around any? Or
We moved to Iowa for a year, and then we moved to Alabama.
okay, is that where you went to high school? Was it in Alabama?
High school, Alabama.
Okay. What city in Alabama?
Started in Thomasville and ended up in Chickasaw, which is outside of Mobile.
Okay. And then after high school,
Well, I told everybody that they ought to go to college, and I joined the Navy.
okay. So, and what did you do in the Navy?
Electronic technician. Went to school at Great Lakes because my relatives were all in Ohio, so I decided to be up there where I can get to see them.
Okay. And did you serve on a ship, or did you just have shore duty, or?
I had a unique situation. I ended up in Key West, Florida for a year at a surface anti-submarine development detachment. And then I was sent to the CBS WASP, which is a carrier out of Boston. And never made any foreign visits or anything.
Okay. And so how long were you in the Navy?
3 years.
Okay. And after the Navy,
University of Alabama.
okay, why the University of Alabama?
Well, that's where we lived, Mobile and that area.
And what did you study at Alabama?
I thought I was going to be an engineer, but when I looked at all the courses, I decided I'd go American Studies.
And what does American Studies mean?
American Studies focuses on America's development and history and economics and social things, yes.
Okay. And so you finished your degree, and what next?
Marriage.
Okay.
And I got a job in Mobile and lived there for a couple of years. And
Okay. What were you? What kind of job?
just the office manager at a department store.
Okay.
And then I ended up going to LSU for a year and a half in economics, but
Okay.
I didn't finish. But then I was looking for a job and found one in Corpus.
Okay. What was the job in Corpus?
Planner for an economic development district. The Coastal Bend Economic Development District was a 20-county regional economic development district.
And you got that because of your interest in economics, or?
That and the fact that there was an opening here, and I'd gone to Austin to talk to EDA up there, and they recommended that I get in touch with the director down here, and he met me and eventually hired me.
Okay. You remember who the director was?
Sure, Dempsey Dupree.
Okay.
I worked for him for 5 years, and then he came to work for the COG, and I came to work for the COG right after that.
Okay. And you worked for the COG as a planner?
Urban planner, yeah.
Okay.
We worked in housing, and we did one or two plans that we had for some of the communities here.
So you would actually do planning services for the cities within the region?
Well, we did a plan for one city, but we did other economic analysis for other cities.
Okay. And at some point in time you went back to school to get your master's?
It was really a unique situation. In '69, Joe McGraw, who was a professor at A&M, had started a program where we could go to classes on the weekend on campus and here in Corpus, and led to a master's degree in planning. So we had 13 to 15 people here in Corpus that would participate.
Okay. Do you remember some of the professors that you had?
Claude Davis, Chewy Hinojosa, Jim Gardner. I'm trying to remember if David Pugh came down or we went up there. I think Virgil Virgil Thompson taught transportation up at
Stover? Virgil Stover?
Virgil Stover, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember any of your classmates?
Well, yeah, Dempsey Dupree was one. Sam Lattimore was the EDA rep here in Corpus. He was one. Jack Alexander, who was working for the COG at one time and then went to work for EDA in Austin, he was one of them. We had several architects. Bill, no, I can't remember his name. Bill. Anyway, several architects and other people from the COG.
Okay. And you were doing this all while you were working full-time for
Right,
the COG?
right, yeah. It was a unique situation.
Okay.
So we graduated in '70.
Okay. And you stayed with the COG?
At that time, I was with the Economic Development District.
Okay.
But when, for many years, the governor's office was trying to get the boundaries of the economic development districts to coincide with the boundaries of the COG. And by '72, they were able to set it up so that the Coastal Bend EDD, Economic Development District, would be merged with the Coastal Bend COG, but that meant that 7 of our counties went to the Golden Crescent COG, and 3 of our counties went to the Alamo COG. So then they had set a budget, and the budget didn't include me, it just included Dempsey. And so, but the COG had an opening, and I applied, and that was it.
Okay. And you've been with the COG ever since?
Since February '73.
Okay, that's quite a tenure.
Quite a tenure.
Are you the longest serving employee, or?
No, I'm about third.
Okay.
The executive director that came here in '71,
Who is?
John Buckner,
Okay.
and our printer, Frank Garcia, has been here about 4 months before me.
Okay.
So,
Well, over that time, what are some of the major projects that you worked on?
well, like I said, we did a plan for the city of Three Rivers. We worked with the Texas Department of Transportation doing a regional rural transportation plan. We were asked to do that by the Metropolitan Planning Organization because they only included 2 counties at that time, and we covered all 12 of the counties. We worked on a regional leadership program through A&M. We helped put that together, and of course we did different regional housing seminars and this type of thing.
Okay. And some of the other staff members here, have you had other planners working for you?
Well, that's the thing. When I first came on board, there was like 4 or 5 planners on board. The city of Corpus Christi had a long-range planning department. They had another, the urban development planning department. And so that was back in the early '70s and mid '70s. And then all of a sudden, we used to have to do HUD plans where we had to meet their requirements by doing studies. And so they funded us, so we had money for planners. That went away, so did the planners. And so at one time, we are the southmost APA area. And our, in the '70s, most of the planners were in Corpus Christi, because Corpus Christi had several different planning departments. We had ours. We had a lot of private sector people involved in planning, architects, engineers. And then one of our cities had a planner, but most of them didn't have any. So as the cities along the Rio Grande Valley developed, they had planners and they had more planning departments. And so when the COG planners went away and when the city planners stopped, went away, the number of members in APA was down in the valley. So all the APA functions went south. And we haven't been as involved from this area in the APA. And that's primarily because there's not that many planners. In fact, the city of Corpus Christi did away with their planning department. They hired a consultant to come in and do a plan. And now they're in the process of trying to get more update on it.
Okay. Well, you're Director of Planning and Development, so what kinds of projects are you working on right now?
Right now, well, one of our requirements is that, excuse me, that we have to do a comprehensive economic development strategy every 5 years for EDA, and we're in the midst of that right now. This will be the fourth one. We started in 2001, and then this plan has a different focus. It's kind of looking at trying to do more with regard to digital approach to storing information, having it access to the people in the various cities and counties. And the planning that they plan to do is to deal with cities and county plans, where they're trying to encourage all the counties to develop an economic development plan. And they're hoping that with this digital information and data that they'll be able to help these counties do that.
Well, you mentioned the southmost section of APA. When did you first get involved with APA, or was it AIP and ASPO at the time?
It was AIP and ASPO at the time, back in '68. When I first came on board, we got involved with some of the local people here, especially at the COG. And I wasn't with the COG, I was with the Economic Development District. And so Bill Anderson was down here. He was the head of the city planning department, and he was involved. And so that's when I started. And then especially when we started going to A&M for planning, we were strong there.
And so you were active in the section here?
I went through all of the positions. And,
okay.
Yeah.
And then did you ever get involved at the state level with either the chapter or the Education Foundation?
I was on the Education Foundation, and for a while I was treasurer of the state chapter.
Okay.
I was involved with CPAT, the City Planners Association of Texas. Served as president there for a while, a couple of years.
Well, you want to talk a little bit about CPAT, what it was and how it was different than APA?
Well, CPAT, like its name implies, was focused on cities more than just regional planning. And the members were primarily city planners. How I got involved, I don't know. I was at the time a joiner, I guess.
Okay. Have you gotten involved with the Texas Association of Counties or regional planning commissions, I guess?
Well,
TARC?
Well, always been involved in TARC. In fact, we were involved when it first started when we was with the Economic Development District. We went to Washington in, I think, '69 and '70 to meet with the National Association of Development Organization people. And so, but we also attended all the TARC functions across the state.
Okay. Any other organizations that you've been involved with?
When I was with the Economic Development District, I got involved in the SIDC, the Southern Industrial Development Corporation Commission, and never was an officer or anything, but I attended meetings across the country, South primarily.
You have any mentors that kind of helped you when you first got started? People that you looked up to?
Well, it's interesting you'd ask that because Tom Herron was here at the COG. And so when I got the job at the COG, I was looking forward to working with Tom because he was a planner. And 5 months after I came on board, he left. So I guess, I've worked with Bill Anderson and Bruce McClendon was someone I worked with
Okay.
As a mentor.
Okay. How about the other side? Any proteges or people that you may have mentored that you're particularly proud of? Gone on to...
Well, I can't say that I mentored him, but Tom Brown was on staff, and he went to work for the South Texas Water Authority, set that up, and then he went to work for the Texas Water Development Board, where he still works.
Okay.
Well, he went to work for Water Development Board, then he worked for Naismith Engineering. That's where he works now.
Okay. If you had to give any advice to a planner that was right out of school, what would that be?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I guess, I don't know. What would you say?
Well, that's okay. Everybody has their own ideas, so.
Probably getting in the private sector would be the logical thing that I would say.
Okay.
The problem in, like I say, HUD doesn't fund us anymore. And getting state and federal funds is hard. So I guess, I don't know what they tell them these days, what they're going to do.
Well, other than planning, are there any organizations that you're involved with? So you do some work with Campfire?
I was involved with the Campfire organization here in town
Okay.
and we fell on hard times and had to disband. So I went through the chairs there. I was secretary, president, and all that. So.
And you got involved because of your kids, or?
No, I got involved because of one of our board members. He asked me to serve, and so I said, okay. And he kept me on there forever. So he left, and I was left with a dying organization.
Okay. Any other outside organizations that you've, cultural, social?
Not really.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm not, like I say, not that involved.
Okay. You want to talk at all about your family?
I've got 2 sons and a daughter. My one son is a chef. He works at a hunting ranch in Falfurrias, Texas. And my other son is an accountant and works at Borden's Milk. My daughter is a nurse, but she's into doing clinical trials, helping set them up and evaluate them.
None of them wanted to be planners or economists?
No, I don't think so. I never tried to steer anybody into what I did. I let the kids just, I don't know who can control their kids doing what they want them to do. Not me.
Well, we've talked about most of the stuff that I had on my list, but is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we haven't talked about?
Not really, I guess. You've kind of covered it all.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to visit with us.
I appreciate you coming by.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.